This is not a story about one creature, one ghost, or one explanation. At Skinwalker Ranch, people have reported seeing massive wolf-like beasts, humanoid figures, glowing orbs in the sky, and objects that seem to move between worlds. When a single location becomes the center of so many different encounters, some researchers believe the land itself may be broken, acting as a gateway where something else comes through. Before we explore who owned this ranch, who investigated it, and what they discovered, subscribe to Whispers Beyond Archives, where we uncover the most disturbing true mysteries ever recorded. Skinwalker Ranch is located in Uintah County, Utah, a remote stretch of high desert land surrounded by mesas, dry plains, and long, silent nights, an environment where isolation alone can already play tricks on the human mind. Long before it became famous, the land was simply known as a cattle ranch, passed quietly between owners, with little attention from the outside world. However, local Native American tribes, particularly the Navajo, had long warned that this area should be avoided. In their traditions, the land was believed to be associated with malevolent forces, including beings known as skinwalkers, entities said to be capable of shapeshifting and bringing sickness, death, or misfortune. These stories were not shared lightly, and many elders refused to even speak about them openly, believing that acknowledging such entities could invite them closer. In the early 1990s, the ranch was purchased by a family later identified publicly as the Sherman family, who moved onto the property with the intention of raising cattle and living a quiet rural life. At first, everything appeared normal, but strange events soon began to unfold. Livestock behaved erratically, refusing to enter certain areas of the land, while dogs became aggressive or terrified for no clear reason. The Shermans reported seeing strange lights hovering silently above the fields at night, moving in sharp angles that did not resemble aircraft. On several occasions, they claimed to encounter a massive wolf-like creature near the property, unusually large and seemingly unafraid of humans. According to their accounts, bullets fired at the animal appeared to have little or no effect, and the creature eventually vanished into the darkness without leaving tracks. As time passed, the disturbances escalated. Cattle were found dead or mutilated, sometimes discovered miles away from where they had last been seen, with injuries that ranch veterinarians could not easily explain. Objects were reported to move on their own, strange sounds echoed across the land, and members of the family described a persistent feeling of being watched, as if something unseen was observing their every move. Unable to find rational explanations and increasingly fearful for their safety, the Sherman family eventually chose to leave the ranch, unwilling to remain on land that seemed hostile and unpredictable. Their experiences, once shared quietly with neighbors, began to circulate more widely, drawing the attention of individuals who believed the ranch represented something far more significant than a simple haunting. This decision to abandon the property marked a turning point. The ranch would soon change hands, not to another family, but to someone who saw Skinwalker Ranch not as cursed land to flee from, but as a rare opportunity to study the unknown under controlled conditions. After the Sherman family abandoned Skinwalker Ranch, the property remained largely unoccupied until 1994, when it was purchased by a private individual whose identity was initially kept confidential. Unlike previous owners, this purchaser was not simply seeking a home or a piece of land to raise cattle. Instead, they recognized that the ranch's unusual reputation offered a unique opportunity to investigate unexplained phenomena in a controlled environment. Determined to understand the strange occurrences and document them scientifically, the new owner assembled a team of experts, including physicists, engineers, surveillance specialists, and experienced researchers in anomalous events. This group would later become known as the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. Their mission was clear: to study the ranch objectively, using rigorous methods and high-tech equipment, in hopes of uncovering patterns that might explain the seemingly impossible events reported over the years. Upon taking possession of the ranch, NIDS began installing an array of monitoring devices across the property. Motion detectors, infrared cameras, electromagnetic field sensors, and audio recording equipment were strategically placed to capture any anomaly, whether it was a sudden movement, a temperature spike, or an unexplained sound. Researchers worked around the clock, often staying on site in shifts to ensure that nothing went unrecorded. The team's first months were a mix of mundane observations and deeply unsettling incidents. On some nights, the monitoring equipment picked up inexplicable lights moving through the sky at incredible speeds, often disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Cattle were found dead or mutilated in ways that defied standard veterinary explanation, sometimes discovered far from the areas they had been grazing. Shadows were observed moving independently of any light source, and even experienced investigators reported feeling watched, as if an unseen presence were aware of every action. Despite the use of advanced technology, many phenomena could not be measured, quantified, or explained. Some scientists began to suggest that the ranch itself might be a location where multiple realities intersect, a portal of sorts, allowing entities or energies from other dimensions to cross into our world. This theory would later become one of the central explanations for the variety of reported experiences, including sightings of skinwalkers, Bigfoot-like creatures, and other unknown entities. Through years of documentation and analysis, NIDS transformed Skinwalker Ranch from a private curiosity into one of the most studied sites of paranormal and anomalous activity in the United States. The combination of scientific investigation and first-hand witness accounts added credibility to events that might otherwise have been dismissed as folklore, hoax, or imagination. Even so, much of what occurred at the ranch remains unexplained, and the land continues to inspire speculation, research, and fear, cementing its place in both modern paranormal history and the imaginations of those who dare to explore its mysteries. Before the strange events began, the Sherman family had moved on to Skinwalker Ranch with plans to live a quiet, rural life, raising cattle and enjoying the solitude of Utah's high desert. They had hoped for a peaceful existence, tending to their livestock, repairing fences, and living off the land, embracing the isolation as part of ranch life. For several months, life seemed normal, the cattle grazing calmly across the wide open fields, the dogs roaming the property without incident, and the family settling into a routine that felt secure and familiar. But the calm did not last. Reports soon emerged of strange lights hovering silently above the fields at night, shadows moving independently of any source, and, most alarmingly, massive wolf-like creatures appearing on the property. These creatures were unlike any ordinary wolf. Some were said to stand upright at times, their eyes glowing with intelligence and malice, and their size far exceeding that of any known animal. Locals and researchers would later speculate that these were not ordinary wolves, but manifestations of the Skinwalker, an entity from Native American legend capable of shapeshifting, assuming the form of animals, and exerting influence over both humans and livestock. One evening, as the Sherman family tended to the cattle, a massive shadow emerged along the tree line. Their hearts pounded as they recognized the figure of a wolf, but unlike any wolf they had ever seen. It was enormous, almost unnaturally large, with fur matted but bristling, eyes glowing with an unsettling intelligence, fixed directly on them as if evaluating their every move. Fear surged through the family, but adrenaline took over. One member grabbed a rifle stored inside the barn. Hands shaking, they raised the gun and fired, the report echoing across the quiet desert night. The creature reacted immediately, its eyes narrowing with what appeared to be anger or defiance, a chilling intelligence behind the gaze, almost human in perception. It let out a low, almost mocking growl, and then, moving with impossible speed, it vanished into the darkness, leaving no tracks, no sign that it had ever been there. After the creature disappeared, the Sherman family recounted their reactions in interviews with investigators. They described standing frozen for several moments, hearts racing and breaths ragged, as the quiet desert night suddenly felt heavy and oppressive. Slowly, they retreated toward the house, moving cautiously while scanning every shadow for signs of the wolf's return. Inside, they locked doors and windows, checked latches, and double-checked weapons, all while speaking in hushed, urgent tones to calm themselves and reassure each other. The children clung to their parents, trembling, as the adults whispered about what they had just seen and debated whether to call for help, leave the ranch temporarily, or even abandon it entirely. For hours afterward, every sound, the rustling wind, a distant coyote, the creak of a floorboard, kept them on edge, and fleeting shadows in peripheral vision, along with the dogs' anxious behavior, made them feel as though the land itself was alive and aware of their presence. Subsequent sightings only deepened the mystery. Witnesses reported the wolf appearing in different forms at different times, sometimes on all fours, sometimes partially upright, and at other times seeming to merge or blur into shadow, giving the impression of transformation. Local Navajo legends describe skinwalkers as capable of assuming multiple forms, and the family began to suspect that what they were seeing was not a single animal, but an entity capable of changing shape at will. Even when livestock were safe nearby, the presence of these creatures was felt as a heavy, oppressive awareness, a palpable sense that the land itself was alive with intelligence. Cattle became another source of terror. Animals were found mutilated in ways that defied natural explanation, sometimes dragged miles from where they had grazed. Cuts were precise, organs removed, and there was no evidence of predators. Dogs reacted with aggression or terror, sometimes barking at nothing, refusing to enter certain areas, or fleeing as if sensing a malevolent force invisible to human eyes. For the Shermans, the combination of glowing-eyed wolves, the mutilated livestock, and the unrelenting feeling of being watched made everyday life on the ranch a constant battle between fear and survival. These early incidents, terrifying in their intensity and impossible to rationalize, were some of the first indications that Skinwalker Ranch was not simply haunted. Rather, it seemed to be a location where multiple realities or forces intersected, a place where entities could cross boundaries, and where the ordinary laws of nature appeared suspended. The wolf-like creatures, capable of transformation and displaying intelligence beyond normal animals, were perhaps the most vivid evidence of the ranch's enigmatic and dangerous character. For the Sherman family, and future investigators alike, these experiences were just the beginning of a story that would challenge both science and folklore, and would ultimately cement Skinwalker Ranch as one of the most mysterious locations in the world. In addition to the massive wolf-like creatures that haunted the Sherman family, further encounters soon suggested that Skinwalker Ranch harbored entities far beyond ordinary wildlife. The family and neighboring witnesses reported seeing upright, humanoid figures, sometimes moving silently through the fields or appearing in the tree lines, creatures that did not resemble any known animal, but instead matched descriptions commonly associated with legendary werewolves or Bigfoot-like beings. These figures were often described as towering, heavily built, covered in dark hair, and moving with uncanny speed, capable of disappearing into the shadows without leaving any trace. Some observers noted that the creatures' eyes reflected light in a deliberate, intelligent way, as though studying the humans who dared enter their domain, lending the impression that these were sentient beings, rather than wild animals. Terry Sherman, in multiple interviews recorded for the book Hunt for the Skinwalker, described his first-hand encounter with one such entity, recalling how he and his family had been tending cattle when an enormous creature, much larger than a normal wolf, appeared, its form partially upright, with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the night. He recounted taking aim and firing a rifle at the creature, only to see it move off effortlessly into the darkness, entirely unharmed, leaving behind an unsettling sense that they were confronting something far beyond human understanding. In the same interviews, other witnesses noted the presence of peculiar footprints and unusual marks in the fields, adding further mystery to these encounters. Beyond individual sightings, Skinwalker Ranch became the focus of scientific study and media attention. Investigative teams, including members of the National Institute for Discovery Science, NIDS, arrived with cameras, sensors, and surveillance equipment, seeking to document the paranormal phenomena that had plagued the ranch for decades. Researchers reported anomalous readings, electronic equipment failures at critical moments, and strange visual phenomena captured on film, sometimes showing unexplained movements or shadowy figures that could not be identified. Among the footage were instances that seemed to depict humanoid forms, moving rapidly or climbing trees, resembling the very Bigfoot or werewolf-like creatures described by witnesses. These investigations were later featured in television programs and documentaries, providing the public with glimpses of the ranch's mysterious activity. The History Channel's The Proof is Out There, Skinwalker Edition, and the multi-season series The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch showcased footage from the research teams, highlighting their attempts to capture evidence of UFOs, light anomalies, and unexplained creatures, while also recounting first-hand accounts from the Sherman family and other witnesses. Even as some recordings were inconclusive or corrupted, the consistency of reports across multiple observers and decades reinforced the notion that Skinwalker Ranch was more than a haunted property. It was a locus of extraordinary and inexplicable phenomena. For the Sherman family, these ongoing sightings, from glowing-eyed wolves to humanoid creatures, confirmed that their once quiet ranch had become a crossroads of the extraordinary, a place where multiple entities, possibly from different dimensions, could intersect with our world. And as subsequent research and documentary coverage would reveal, these initial encounters were only the beginning, hinting at deeper mysteries that would continue to unfold across the ranch's expansive, shadowed landscape. After the unsettling encounters with wolf-like creatures and humanoid forms, the Sherman family and subsequent investigators began noticing phenomena in the skies above Skinwalker Ranch that defied explanation. Strange lights appeared regularly at night, hovering silently over the fields or moving erratically across the horizon, sometimes disappearing and reappearing in moments. The lights were reported as bright, multicolored orbs, often far too large or precise in movement to be conventional aircraft. On occasion, the orbs would follow the researchers, vehicles, or linger over areas where unusual animal activity had been observed, giving the impression of an intelligent presence observing or even interacting with the ground-level activity below. Witnesses described these aerial anomalies in vivid detail. Terry Sherman recalled nights when hundreds of glowing spheres seemed to scatter across the sky, some moving as if guided by intent, weaving in and out of the tree line. The lights sometimes pulsed rhythmically or split into multiple smaller orbs, vanishing only to reappear in a completely different sector of the ranch. These displays were both mesmerizing and terrifying, creating a sense that the ranch existed in a dimension where ordinary rules of physics no longer applied. The research teams that later arrived, including members of the National Institute for Discovery Science and independent documentary crews, installed high-sensitivity cameras and sensors to record these strange aerial events. Many of their instruments captured sudden surges in electromagnetic activity or unexplained energy readings coinciding with the appearance of the lights, and some cameras recorded luminous shapes that seemed to change form mid-flight. Video footage presented in shows such as The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch and The Proof Is Out There. Skinwalker Edition occasionally captured fleeting glimpses of these orbs, sometimes accompanied by simultaneous ground disturbances or cattle reactions, suggesting a possible connection between the terrestrial and aerial phenomena. Investigators and skeptics alike were puzzled by these occurrences. The lights did not conform to known aircraft, satellites, or natural meteorological phenomena. Some researchers hypothesized that these aerial anomalies could represent a portal or dimensional gateway, a thin point in reality, through which entities or energy from another realm might cross into our world. The idea of a portal was reinforced by recurring patterns, lights appearing at specific locations, seemingly interacting with the land, and coinciding with other paranormal events such as animal mutilations, humanoid sightings, and electromagnetic disruptions. Eyewitnesses further describe moments when the sky itself seemed to shimmer or ripple, as if the very fabric of reality had thinned. Shadows cast by the orbs appeared to move independently, and some team members reported feelings of disorientation, nausea, or sudden drops in temperature when the phenomena intensified. These experiences, recorded in detailed logs by researchers and later shared with documentary crews, underscored the unnerving notion that Skinwalker Ranch was a nexus for multiple forms of unexplained activity, both terrestrial and aerial, bridging the gap between folklore, eyewitness accounts, and scientific investigation. For the Sherman family, the combination of skybound orbs, wolf-like creatures, and humanoid sightings made everyday life a relentless ordeal. Sleep became difficult, animals remained on edge, and the sense of being observed persisted day and night. The research teams, following in their footsteps, sought to capture, measure, and understand what seemed impossible to explain, documenting evidence of a place where normal rules did not apply, and where the boundary between the known and the unknown was permeable. Ultimately, the UFOs and light phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch represent not just isolated sightings, but an intricate web of paranormal activity, a puzzle that connects the land, the creatures inhabiting it, and the mysterious aerial events above. The ranch, as Brandon Fugel and his team would later observe, seems to exist in a liminal space, a location where portals, energies, and entities converge, making Skinwalker Ranch one of the most enigmatic and actively studied sites of unexplained phenomena in the world. As the strange lights, wolf-like creatures, and humanoid figures continued to appear, investigators began to speculate that Skinwalker Ranch was more than just a site of paranormal activity. What might be a locus where dimensions intersect, a thin point in reality where entities and energies could cross over into our world. Repeated patterns of phenomena, fluctuating lights, disappearing creatures, unexplained physical disturbances, and sudden electromagnetic surges led some researchers to consider the existence of a portal or gateway. This invisible threshold seemed to connect the ranch to realms beyond conventional perception, a place where the normal laws of physics, biology, and time could be suspended. Multiple eyewitnesses described moments when the air seemed to shimmer or warp, as though the very fabric of space above the ranch rippled with unseen energy. One researcher recounted observing a series of glowing orbs suddenly coalescing into a vertical column of light that pulsated in synchrony, with low-frequency vibrations detectable only by sensitive instruments. Ranch animals reacted violently during these events, huddling together, fleeing, or barking at empty space, signaling an awareness of something invisible yet tangible. The sensations reported by both investigators and locals, intense nausea, sudden chills, feelings of being watched, suggested a profound interaction between human perception and an unseen, interdimensional presence. Historical legends of the Ute and Navajo peoples provided context for these occurrences. Native American oral history spoke of skinwalkers, shape-shifting entities able to traverse boundaries between worlds, capable of inhabiting animals, humans, or even manipulating physical reality. For investigators, these cultural accounts offered an unsettling framework. The ranch's anomalous activity might not be entirely random, but tied to forces that local traditions had long recognized, where a thin veil between realms allowed extraordinary events to manifest in the physical world. The phenomenon of the portal gained additional support through the observations of Brandon Fugel and his research team, who employed an array of technological tools including infrared cameras, electromagnetic sensors, and spectral analyzers. Their recordings captured sudden energy spikes coinciding with the appearance of aerial lights, terrestrial creatures, and even unexplained heat anomalies. Sometimes, shadows or shapes would appear to emerge from these localized distortions in space, vanish for seconds, and then reappear elsewhere, defying conventional explanations. These anomalies were meticulously logged, with video, thermal, and electromagnetic evidence compiled for analysis, forming a tangible record of what appeared to be interdimensional activity. Observers noted that these disturbances were often localized to specific areas of the ranch, points where cattle mutilations, wolf sightings, and aerial lights converged. Such a correlation suggested not mere coincidence, but a possible nexus of energy, or a portal acting as a conduit between worlds. Witnesses reported that even when standing several hundred feet away, they could feel the pressure of an invisible force, the hair on their arms standing on end, and a weightless tension in the air that made movement feel oddly slowed or resisted. The ranch itself seemed alive, not in a conventional sense, but as if attuned to some unseen intelligence governing the phenomena. The implications were profound. Skinwalker Ranch was not merely a location of frightening events. It was a doorway to the unknown, a place where human observers could witness, and possibly interact with, forces beyond the material world. The combined evidence of strange lights, shifting creatures, animal mutilations, and localized energy distortions pointed to a pattern that scientists, folklorists, and eyewitnesses alike struggled to explain. For those who spent time on the property, it became clear that they were not simply observing isolated phenomena. They were encountering a reality in which multiple dimensions, forces, and entities intersected, sometimes briefly, sometimes violently, leaving only fleeting traces of their presence. The portal theory, while speculative, helped tie together decades of reports from the Sherman family, the NIDS research teams, and subsequent investigations by documentary crews. It provided a conceptual framework to understand why some phenomena, such as a giant wolf appearing and vanishing, lights dancing across the sky, or inexplicable electromagnetic readings, consistently occurred in the same locations, suggesting a convergence point where the ordinary world and the extraordinary might meet. For Skinwalker Ranch, the portal was the invisible thread weaving together the countless mysteries that had haunted the land for decades, offering a chilling reminder that in this corner of Utah, the boundaries of reality might be thinner than anyone could imagine. Following the mysterious lights in the sky and the portal-like disturbances, both the Sherman family and subsequent research teams reported a series of energy anomalies that defied conventional explanation. Instruments would suddenly spike, with electromagnetic fields fluctuating violently in areas where no obvious source existed. Electrical devices failed without reason, radios emitted strange static, and some cameras inexplicably stopped recording during critical moments. Researchers often described an uneasy sensation when entering these zones. Hair standing on end, a sudden drop in temperature, and a feeling that the air itself was charged with a conscious, unseen force. Auditory phenomena accompanied these energy disturbances. Strange sounds echoed across the ranch at night. Unidentifiable footsteps on empty land, low guttural growls, and, at times, high-pitched whistles that seemed almost purposeful, moving from tree to tree or field to field. Witnesses described hearing their names called in the darkness, only to find no one there. Dogs and other animals reacted violently to these noises, barking, fleeing, or refusing to enter certain areas, suggesting that some invisible intelligence was present, monitoring every movement. Even members of the investigative teams reported a primal, instinctual fear that was difficult to articulate, as though the land itself was alive and aware. Shadow phenomena added yet another layer of mystery. Observers frequently reported seeing dark shapes dart across the edges of vision, moving with unnatural speed or hovering for brief moments before disappearing entirely. Some shadows appeared to have formed humanoid or animalistic, but never fully materialized, giving the impression of entities existing between dimensions. These occurrences were often synchronized with both light and energy anomalies, implying a connection between the visual, auditory, and electromagnetic disturbances, further supporting the idea that the ranch was a nexus for multidimensional activity. The research teams documented these events meticulously, employing thermal cameras, infrared equipment, and motion sensors. Footage sometimes captured indistinct shapes that vanished upon closer examination, or sudden energy surges coinciding with loud, unexplained noises. In interviews recorded for the History Channel's The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, team members recounted feeling watched, even in daylight, a constant presence that seemed to follow their movements and respond to their actions. The combination of shadows, sounds, and energy spikes made it clear that this was no ordinary haunting. These were active, intelligent anomalies, capable of manipulating both perception and physical reality. Even the ranch animals were not immune. Horses, cattle, and dogs displayed signs of intense stress or terror during these episodes, sometimes refusing to enter certain pastures or exhibiting unusual behaviors such as circling repeatedly or reacting to stimuli invisible to human observers. These reactions were corroborated by the investigative teams, who noted that animal behavior often preceded visual or auditory phenomena, suggesting that non-human senses detected forces beyond human perception. The cumulative evidence painted a chilling picture. Skinwalker Ranch was a place where energy, perception, and reality intertwined. Every sighting of a wolf-like creature, every glowing orb in the sky, and every inexplicable sound or shadow contributed to the understanding that the ranch existed at the intersection of multiple forces, both visible and invisible. For anyone living or working there, the sense of unease was not simply psychological. It was the tangible result of a landscape alive with phenomena that challenged every assumption about the natural world. As the sun set over the high desert, the Shermans and investigators alike would reflect on the unsettling fact that every corner of the ranch seemed to conceal a potential encounter. No space was safe, no sound or shadow to be ignored, and no explanation fully sufficient. The energy anomalies, the sounds, and the shifting shadows were more than random events. They were active markers of a reality where the boundaries of science, folklore, and the paranormal blurred, leaving only the unsettling certainty that Skinwalker Ranch remained a site of profound and ongoing mystery. As the energy anomalies, shadows, and strange sounds continued to challenge both the Sherman family and investigative teams, attention increasingly turned to the UFOs and light phenomena observed above the ranch. Researchers analyzed hundreds of hours of footage captured with infrared, thermal, and night vision cameras, noting patterns that suggested intelligence and purpose behind the movements. Orbs often appeared in clusters, moved against prevailing winds, and executed sudden directional changes impossible for conventional aircraft. In some recordings, lights vanished completely from one camera angle, only to reappear moments later from another, a phenomenon that fueled speculation about the existence of a dimensional portal above the ranch. Historical accounts, predating the Sherman family, revealed that the ranch had long been a hotspot for unexplained aerial phenomena. Locals reported seeing glowing objects in the sky, strange balls of light that hovered over the pastures, and beams of energy that appeared to connect the ground with the heavens. Navajo traditions spoke of areas in the desert that acted as liminal spaces, thresholds between the ordinary world and other realms. Combining these oral histories with modern recordings, researchers suggested that the ranch's geographic and magnetic anomalies could contribute to the concentration of these extraordinary events, effectively making Skinwalker Ranch a nexus for interdimensional activity. Witness testimonies from the Sherman family, and from later investigators, described experiences that reinforced the portal hypothesis. Nightly observations of glowing orbs, unusual cloud formations, and streaks of light coinciding with terrestrial disturbances indicated a deep connection between the skyward phenomena and ground-level anomalies. Some witnesses reported hearing faint hums or vibrations in sync with the lights, as though the ranch itself was resonating with energies beyond human comprehension. Cattle and dogs reacted instinctively, refusing to graze or enter specific areas, further demonstrating that the unseen forces were not just visually observable, but physically perceptible. The research team, led by Brandon Fugel, implemented controlled observation strategies using multiple synchronized camera arrays, motion sensors, and electromagnetic field detectors. Their goal was to quantify and track patterns, attempting to find causal links between the aerial phenomena, energy spikes, and ground-level anomalies. While some events could be correlated with natural explanations, many remained unexplained, objects appearing in perfect geometric patterns, hovering without propulsion, or moving with intelligence that seemed beyond conventional physics. In the context of UFO research, these anomalies were considered some of the most compelling ever documented in the continental United States. Beyond the technical analysis, historical witness accounts added depth to the mystery. Decades before formal investigation, previous ranch owners reported livestock mutilations, mysterious lights, and shadowy figures roaming the property. Some describe seeing massive wolf-like creatures or humanoid forms disappearing into the darkness, while others experienced what they called energy waves, sudden and inexplicable shifts in temperature, pressure, or sensations. These cumulative reports reinforced the notion that Skinwalker Ranch was not simply a single event, but a long-standing epicenter of unexplained phenomena, linking folklore, eyewitness testimony, and scientific observation across generations. The combination of UFO sightings, light orbs, energy anomalies, and historical witness testimony paints Skinwalker Ranch as a truly singular location. It is a place where multiple layers of reality converge, where humans, animals, and phenomena interact in ways that challenge both logic and perception. For anyone studying or visiting the ranch, the experience is not merely about observing strange events. It is about confronting the limits of understanding, stepping into a landscape where the known world and the unknown coexist, and witnessing a phenomenon that has captivated scientists, investigators, and storytellers for decades. As investigations continue today, new footage, interviews, and technological measurements still emerge, suggesting that Skinwalker Ranch remains an active nexus for unexplained phenomena. From glowing orbs to wolf-like creatures, from shadow figures to interdimensional anomalies, the ranch continues to defy explanation, reminding us that there are places in our world where reality itself seems to bend, shift, and reveal secrets we are only beginning to comprehend. Did this story give you chills? Comment below and share your thoughts on Skinwalker Ranch. Like this video if you enjoyed the journey into the unknown, and subscribe for weekly, real paranormal investigations. Hit the bell to never miss a chilling tale from Whispers Beyond Archives.